What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of having the only person to accomplish the feat of being the IWGP Metamoris UFC King of Pancrase Heavyweight Champion. He's the one and only formerly babyface assassin, now the Warmaster, Josh Barnett. Josh, how are you, my man?
It's just another day in sweltering hot paradise.
Dang right, dude. I love it. I love it. And I love the fact that you've never been busier during this time. And, you know, that's the name of the game. Like, there's some goofy stuff or whatever. Don't engage. Like, just focus on what will make you happy and your community somewhat better. And that's all we can do.
Well, I mean, the thing is, there's usually more things at your disposal than you're aware of. And even sometimes it comes down to getting to the things that you've been putting off. And so between selling all kinds of stuff on OfferUp and Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and even some on eBay, and honestly, some of that is not just a matter of making some cash. It's that I have these things, they have value. I know someone wants them, but if I'm not using them, holding on to them just seems pointless, especially when somebody else could get or derive a whole lot more usefulness out of it than me. So cleaning out as much as I can. I'm still in the process of getting rid of all kinds of shit, actually. And working on all the other projects that I always want to, but don't necessarily have the time to under most circumstances, especially if my fighters are super active or I have a fight coming up or something. It really makes it hard to give anything precedent. So this has been a time where one thing has led to another, and I've just found myself involved in so many different projects and having so many things in motion right now. It's just been fantastic.
That's brilliant. That's so brilliant. Now, you mentioned eBay, right? Things that you can, that you're selling on eBay, and I think it's amazing. One of the things that I purchased on eBay, actually many moons ago, is this guy. Look familiar?
Yeah, you know, I don't personally. I might have one up in Washington still, but I don't have any more of those from the New Japan era. But I do have the small and the full-size Pride figurines. I've got a whole pile of them behind me. Yeah, I've been going through all these different boxes. I got rid of all kinds of figures and anime goods and stuff like that I've just collected over the years, and was just collecting dust. Some of it, actually, a good portion of it was just given to me by fans, which fantastic, but I just don't have enough space to have all these tchotchkes and stuff. So that was good to get rid of some of those things. But yeah, I have a ton of fight related merchandise, old gloves, old trunks, old fight banners. In fact, I've also got plenty of posters from UFC, Strikeforce, Pride. Also, I've got programs from Pride and New Japan, another thing. I think New Japan, maybe on that one. I have to check. But I definitely have passes. So like your laminates and things like that from tons of fight events, some pro wrestling events.
I can't believe he's got all of this stuff just kind of sitting there. But again, in the illustrious career of one Josh Barnett, you kind of acquire these things, and some things might be a little bit more important than others. So I'm actually I might want to procure a couple of these items. I don't know, maybe you guys too, but definitely chime off in the comments below. But I can't believe you've got all this stuff.
Did I just completely blink out of existence on the stream? Okay, let me give me 2 seconds. I'm going to try something. Let's see if it yields results. Yeah, well, it's like I was just about to pick up. Like, I've got lanyards from being at Amon Amarth shows, from backstage passes like this, from Slayer, all that kind of stuff. I kept all of them. And I just figure, like, at some point, you know, someone might really want this kind of stuff. I mean, some of them are special to me that I don't necessarily intend to get rid of, but some of them I just figure, like, hell, at some point maybe they could be useful. Maybe I could sell them. Maybe I could use them to raise money. I could do auctions with them, what have you. I mean, someone really might want them. So, or I could just give them away to certain people. You just never know. Let me try this. Connections.
So, like, my wife is probably gonna go like, no more stuff, but
yeah,
yeah. Don't be surprised if I slide in those DMs, my man. I'm just saying.
Well, you know, I know that this stuff has value to it, especially to folks that are really into it, and I don't blame them for digging it. You know what I mean? Oh, come on.
Yeah, no, I mean, but you know, different things, you know, in terms of sentimental value, you know, sentiment obviously, you know, means different things to different people. So obviously, you know, if somebody can appreciate it a little bit more, why the heck not, right?
There we go. So for whatever reason, my Spectrum internet seems to suck ass and hate StreamYard. Oh, you're frozen.
Mine too. Oh, I can still see you. You're not frozen. Whatever. Sometimes you'll just hear my voice, you know. But yeah, dude, I've got Spectrum and it's absolute dog shit. So yeah, I feel your pain. Can you hear me?
I hear you, but the video on your side is gone. You're just your image is frozen.
Yeah, like that chick in that Disney movie. What is it, Elsa? Let it go, let it go. That's where I'm at.
I don't know what to do. Yeah, I've got you on the using my phone as a mobile hotspot, and so I figured I would try that.
Yeah,
but that doesn't seem to be working either. Yeah. Okay. Fuck.
It works. I mean, on our end, we can see you fine. Yeah, yeah, and the folks over on the chat, they're actually saying that the pic and audio are good at the moment. So, just saying.
Oh, it's working now.
There we go. There you go.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's hope it doesn't kick me off again for whatever reason. Yeah. Well, I'm not necessarily a hoarder, but I know how I am about, like, you know, the weird and the esoteric. I like collecting stuff, and I also realize that sometimes these things have a special element to them, right? They're not something you can just get anywhere. You're not going to get another Pride 36 or whatever, Pride 26 backstage pass or something like that.
No, 100%. Yeah. I've got like a fight banner. Like, I've become kind of a collector. My wife would say a hoarder. I think there's two distinct different things, but I don't know.
It's a fine line.
She's married
to me. So. I see you have a camo belt in the background too.
Yeah, that one is actually the one that's not a replica. That's legit. That was Brooke Mayo's 135-pound title. Yeah, so this is the first women's 135-pound title in history in the state of California, and she won it back at Cyborg show back in 2016. So
in Orange County, probably, right?
Yeah, like, yeah, either Santa Ana or Long Beach. I know people are gonna chime in and go like, "Oh, it was Long Beach" or whatever. There's bigger kind of aficionados of history than me, so not perfect one iota, you know. But dude, I gotta talk to him, all right? Because obviously, I mean, one of the greatest heavyweights, I mean, and practitioners of mixed martial arts there has ever been. But this is the one thing, I mean, among many things, but the thing that I love most about you, but you're a direct lineage from Antonio Inoki, Billy Robinson, Carl Gotch, and what have you.
True.
So
Yeah, I managed to infiltrate that kind of that scene and take to be able to take in all of that kind of knowledge from them, from the physical specific to fight elements, but also to the way of approaching professional wrestling. And I'm very fortuitous that my path in life managed to lead me into their under their tutelage.
Now, I mean, how did your kind of awareness of catch wrestling happen? Because I mean, I know for me, it was, anytime the Hearts would come down to the ring, and I was always, I mean, when I found wrestling, I was about like 2, 3, and all I heard is a guy in Canada has a bunch of kids, all the boys wrestlers, all of the females essentially are married wrestlers, and he trains
Mm-hmm.
everybody in a place called the Dungeon in his house. And I was like, Superman is futile to me at this point. I want to be that guy. I want to be Stu Hart. I want to go to the
um,
dungeon and choke out bears.
I would say that catch came into my understanding um, watching Shuto and Pancrase and UWF stuff, but then I really understood what catch was as I started training under Matt Hume and then training under Billy Robinson and understanding what the lineage elements was. So at one point it was just, watching shoot wrestling or whatever. And so I understood that had its own cadence and philosophy and technical prowess, but then understanding what the lineage of that was, where the roots of where these concepts and everything come from, that came a little later. But then tapping into that understanding just opened up a whole new other way of viewing it, and then it also then became that much more important for me to put it out in the world and to emphasize that this is not just some MMA is not just entirely amorphous, generic, a substrate that has no actual being to it, no uniqueness, but there is. And so I wanted the world like, okay, that's fine. I'm a catch wrestler. Stop saying everything I do is jiu-jitsu. Like jiu-jitsu people have their own styles and techniques, and then things will vary from person to person. But and even still, there's catch wrestling within jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu techniques as well. It's just hard not to cross-pollinate, especially when your grandfather, your original founding member, great or whatever the case may be, who brought the judoka into Brazil to eventually teach his own sons judo and jiu-jitsu. Well, they were doing catch wrestling shows on their relatives' circus shows. I mean, there's just no way of getting around it. But then that's what the world was back then. I mean, that's what a professional wrestler did. They went around the world and took on all comers. And this was the proto Vale Tudo, NHB, and what have you. And so it's not even all that surprising to see that the Gracies and all the other Brazilian related martial artists of that era, like the Luta Livre and the Fada side of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, would all involve themselves in challenge matches and competitions, and from grappling matches to full-on Vale Tudo fights. I mean, it would be the natural next step. So for me, I come from that Japanese pro wrestling side of the lineage, and so for a guy who's mentored under Billy Robinson and Inoki and gotten to train some under Gotch, and then having his two of his biggest trainers, Matt Hume and Eric Paulson, all under that Gotch lineage as well. Well, for me, it's let's carry the torch. Let's keep the fire lit and show the world that this is not only is pro wrestling legitimate, but this is a serious business and a legitimate way to be an MMA fighter.
No, 100%. And it's funny because like a lot of, and not to denote it at all, not by any means or stretch of the imagination, but I mean, when people are like, oh my gosh, there's EBI, there's, like Gary Tonin is, making his sole income off of grappling. And I was like, Yeah, so was Frank Gotch and George Hackenschmidt 100 years ago, and that's what they were doing. It's catch wrestling, So I think it's a very, very important piece of the lineage in terms of like grappling, right? That you essentially have to have catch in that echelon, right? Wow, knocked us both
Oh,
off. That's amazing. There you go.
oh, really? Okay, so I guess it isn't just me then, I guess.
No, I've got the same spectrum, and technically we live maybe about 10 miles away from each other. So,
Yeah,
uh,
this is strange.
yeah.
I know that my router itself has given me problems in times. I have the router and the modem is all in one unit, and it's Netgear. It's fucking top of the line stuff, or at least it was like 5 years ago. But still, I mean, it hustles, but man, I get some spotty work out of it sometimes. So, but I'm not going to go off and spend another hundred and some odd dollars to fix it if that's what even the problem is.
Me
Yeah.
both. I mean, maybe I'll invest it or whatever. But then, one of my friends was like, I got into a fight with Charter and they sent me a new router. So I think that's probably what's going to happen. Total disclosure.
I bought mine on because I didn't want to pay the rental fee over time, and I wanted to have something that I felt was going to be better than what they offered. And oh well, we'll see. Maybe
Oh,
it's them,
well.
maybe it's me. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, people can make money with grappling alone now, and mind you, like guys like Gary and Gordon Ryan. I mean, they really had to. I mean, they had to bust their ass to be able to do such a thing, and they had to compete in everything and find every nickel and dime that could be won to do so, which is great. But then with the accolades, then they were able to leverage that into seminar business and the BJJ Fanatics instructionals and stuff like that. So it's not just a one-step process. And yeah, you can make money with grappling, but it's pretty tough. I think that it maybe if you're of a and you know what, it also helps in their favor that they're BJJ guys. There's just a bigger audience for like the lifestyle of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I guess to put it in a very um, commonly used term. And if you give a BJJ seminar, you're going to have far more kids show up for $100 a pop than you are if you did a seminar on combat submission wrestling or catch wrestling or what have you. It's just not going to be the same. Or if you do a 10th Planet seminar, you're going to get every 10th Planet person to show up. Are you going to get non-10th Planet people? A few, but you don't even really need them because you have a built-in base. You have a built-in consumer base, and goes the same with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
No, 100%. Yeah. And Jamal Harris says, yep, that's absolutely true, but it's almost like a horse of a different name. Yeah. If anything,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. Well, and hey, it is what it is. It's just in the nature of things. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, especially starting with Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, as it was called, really launched itself off and did a hell of a job. And the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition structure and I would say market around it has done exceedingly well. And it's managed to really cement itself as, I'd say in terms of combat sports, it's probably the de facto most money-making one of them. And the amount of money that they can get people to pay to do these stupid jiu-jitsu tournaments to get only guaranteed one match it blows my mind. But I mean, fuck, people will spend $150 to get one match or to wrestle in some white belt tournament, but they won't spend $30 to do a catch wrestling tournament and get a guaranteed two matches
And people get so myopic, and they're so worried about losing. It's like, guys, if you only wrestle 7 times in your life, you barely did anything. As a wrestler, I each season, if I couldn't get 20 matches, I would be like, God, we should do more tournaments, or these guys need to recruit more heavyweights for me, just something, because you should leave high school after 4 years with like near 80 matches under your belt. That's high school.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I keep telling people, you only get to do this for a really short amount of time, so make the most of it. Stop being such a priss about where and how you compete. But I also have to admit there must be some people that really enjoy doing nothing but jiu-jitsu with the gi as much as possible, which is cool. But go compete. Go compete as much as you can. Some folks are like, well, I'll only do this federation stuff. It's like, just get on the mats. If you're good enough, you'll do just fine.
Absolutely. Now, Everett Osmer says, hey, Josh and Adam. Everett, huge fan here. Thank you, Josh, for representing MMA. You're a legend in combat sports, so there's that. And then Jesse Velasquez saying, the Warmaster, you fought all over the world. What is your favorite country and arena to fight in?
Oh, that's easy. It's Japan. Japan is my favorite place to fight of all time, by far. And favorite arena, that's tough to say. I mean, I've competed in quite a few of them multiple times, like Ryogoku Kokugikan, the sumo arena, very famous venue for Pancrase and UWF and New Japan Pro Wrestling. And so I've been there for probably all 3. And I've also competed in Saitama and the Tokyo Dome a bunch of times. Had a lot of good times in the Tokyo Dome. Maybe that's it.
I would say so. I'm just saying, it's so cavernous. I mean, just in terms of the presentation of it, I mean, what is now Wrestle Kingdom, and just to see just the visual of all that, or Pride, back in the day, it's just, I mean, it's a baseball stadium. They were doing great baseball stadiums way before Vince McMahon even thought to do such a thing.
I still tell people, I mean, I went to fight in Japan because it was the biggest, best platform and arena to compete in. I go, the UFC was struggling to do 10,000 seat venues, and I'm walking out there with Bob Sapp in front of 93,000 people. I'm like, it's not a comparison. There are people in Japan doing Gillette commercials and Dole Banana and other things, getting endorsements outside of fighting, when in the States, you could wear tap out shirts and that's about it. Everything was very niche as far as its construction. Everything was Condom Depot, and while it wasn't legal at the time, but I'm sure it would have been like just marijuana dispensaries and vapes and stuff like that. That's all you would have had an option to back then.
Yeah. And Jesse says, in terms of grappling, I couldn't agree with you anymore. Some people are so scared of failure, they don't try to, do anything else.
Yeah, exactly. It's true, because what are you so afraid of? Like, your amateur BJJ record doesn't matter. It's not going to go anywhere. And if you're good enough so that your record does start to mean something, well, then at those lower levels, then I better expect to see you just mopping everybody up. If you're out there struggling away, then maybe you're not going to be the next Gordon Ryan. But you will never know unless you're out there on the mat putting in the time. And what you do in training is not the same as what you do when it counts. And you need to be out there using that opportunity to really put your skills to the test, so that you can figure out where your weaknesses are and where your strengths are. Because at times, being in competition will show you things that you might have thought were one way, but you learned it's completely different.
No, absolutely. And I mean, in terms of levels of grappling, right? Gosh, I don't know how to broach this subject, but I'm going to just do it. So obviously, I've told you every time that I've seen you, every time that you've been in charge of the concept of Bloodsport under GCW, I love it. That is my type of wrestling. That, harkens back to like my love of like Furnace and LaFon in the WWF, like Dan Severn, all of that stuff. So I love, everything catch wrestling and what have you. So Bloodsport, it spoke to me. Like you guys were like that type of fan, Adam Woods. Yeah, you guys spoke to us. So first and foremost, thank you. Now, in recent weeks, Monday Night Raw has Raw Underground.
They sure do.
What were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's not very underground if they film it and put it across national television. I mean, I thought the whole point of Fight Club was you didn't talk about it.
Exactly.
But I'm flattered that they took what they clearly knew was a potentially winning concept and something that people were interested in seeing. And, it's not about putting strippers in the background and creating, a bunch of hokey shit. It's not a gimmick. It's just I set up the stage so that everything can be as sincere and legitimate as possible. And the point is to get rid of the paint by numbers choreography of modern wrestling, to get rid of the hokey gimmicks, get rid of all the stuff that distracts and takes away from the individual just having to show up and wrestle, and then let what is within them, let that emotion and intensity and intent show itself. And I know that is not easy to be done, and that's not easy to even find the people that have the proper skills to be able to operate in that environment. So I'll get people all the time. It's like, book this guy, book me, and I see a bunch of dudes or girls basically just aping MMA. So they're just doing spots with MMA moves instead of your normal pro wrestling stuff. And I'm like, well, that's nothing. That's not different. Just because you did cross arm breaker or an Achilles lock, or you, I don't know, shoot a double and then go into some fancy, it's like that's you're just doing the same shit. Like you don't get it. And trying to imitate stuff is not the same thing as really being the product. The people on my Bloodsport cards can fight. They're not all professional level fighters per se, but they can all do what they need to do. And they go out there and they try to put matches together from that place of realism in their heart. And the intent is real and sincerity is real. And by doing that, I'm trying to make it so that people can fully get lost in the product again and not get caught up with all the external, all the extraneous stuff, but really just be there, not know when this match is going to end, because we're not doing all these finish and falsy setups. We're not doing the whole paint by numbers thing. So now it's like that match could end in 10 seconds or 10 minutes. You don't know. And how? You don't know. But you know that there's probably going to be a finish. But you're just, but by having people have to really hone in and pay attention on it, that makes a huge difference. And I want people to be able to suspend their level of disbelief and get that really deeper experience from watching what we do. And, they go off and watch the hokiest or craziest or bloodiest. I don't care. Go watch what you want to watch. Spend your money where you want to. But when it comes to my show, I want you to walk away thinking and feeling that you saw something special.
No, 100%. And I mean, for me, I've watched wrestling in some iteration or form since I was 2, right? And grew up watching. The first match that I ever saw was Hart versus Savage on a Saturday night's main event. And it just transfixed everything that I imagined and what have you. Now, my problem with Raw Underground is, again, the presentation. Just like you said, it's too clean, right? And that's one thing that I like. The production value was great, especially, the second Bloodsport, right? But you still had that gritty feel. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to integrate more of the Japanese shoot wrestling elements into it too. So the Bloodsport 2, we had an opening ceremony and to go with it. And I addressed the audience. Just like watching an old Pancrase or UWF show or a Pride, because that matters to me. I want that pomp and circumstance, and I want the wrestlers put on that stage as this is, these are the pinnacle. This is the march of the heroes. These are the larger than life participants of this. This is not just some schmo that you can just come up and hassle him about buying shirts out of his luggage. It's like, and not to say that I think anybody has any bad intentions with that, but I want to create that maintain that line between the fans and the product and the wrestlers, because it's the same as David Copperfield isn't there telling you how he's doing his trick, nor is he hanging out with you and just being like, that's cool, right? Yeah, what do you think? No. I mean, and I don't think David Copperfield had any problem with his fan base or anybody that came to watch the show. But by having that distance, you leave that mystery, you leave those questions, and it's good for you to not know everything, of course, because you don't want the magic ruined. But also, it helps for each other to then, and you and your other fellow fans, to argue amongst each other and have those conversations. And the more you get to do that, the more you get to feel like you're a part of it. And I want that interaction, and I want people to have stuff that can get them involved and that they can express their passions in, and then not know what's coming next. So that way, I can keep it fresh and I can keep them on their toes, and not make it just like, oh, okay, well, this is predictable. Well, no, who wants to watch all that predictable?
Yes, and that's the thing that kind of preserved me, and it still does. And I mean that's a slippery slope to go down in terms of what perturbs me about current WWE product, right?
Well,
but,
yeah, and you know what? I mean, the other thing about Raw Underground, I mean, I like the fact that I love that they think that this Bloodsport concept is worth enough pouring money into, and it's got Shayna and Marina out there working. It's got Bobby Lashley has been involved in it, and I think Eric from the Viking Raiders, and you had Ziggler. These are great. This is great. I think there's plenty of opportunity with this, but then how do you train these people? Besides, I mean, how do you put this together? I mean, who's going to do that? Who's the person with the shoot wrestling lineage and the legitimate fight knowledge that can structure this? At the WWE, I don't think that person isn't there. And who's the person that knows how to train wrestlers to do shoot style wrestling? It's not really there. I mean, then you've got the fact of, I think the camera work kills the product, because it's just constant shaky zoom in, zoom out. They're constantly switching camera angles to make it seem like it's more intense, but it just looks like a clusterfuck. You can't follow the action. And I've got, people, I had someone reaching out to me and they're like, hey, did you see our Underground? What'd you think of this? I'm like, I can't tell what the fuck is going on. You'll have to find some other example, because I can't, there's nothing I can take from this other than some shit happened and then something happened. It's, you gotta sort that out so that people can have at least some ability to see what happened when you started at point A and ended up at point B. They don't necessarily need to know how you got there, but they definitely need to know where you started and where you finished.
No, absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, the biggest disappointment of everything that is Raw Underground, and you mentioned, I mean, for me, why isn't Shayna there? Why isn't Marina there? Why isn't Shinsuke Nakamura there? And that, to me,
yeah,
I
mean, it also, I hear you. I mean, Shayna's done. She did a couple matches there. Marina did a match, but okay. So if Raw Underground is some, I don't know, external Fight Club MMA thing outside of Raw, and it is a distinct thing, even though you're watching the same show. So the wrestlers leave the Raw arena, and then they go and then they fight for. I mean, well, which one is real? What takes precedent? If they're out there losing in hokey matches and on previous Raw, and then they go and then they're like some badass in Raw, which one is it? I mean, and it's just you to create the right continuity. It's not easy. You got to figure out. I mean, you just can't. I don't know. I think about when it comes to formulating how to put together a wrestling product and to keep proper continuity and to make things make enough sense to never shock the viewer out of their position, right? Never to like unsettle them from being able to watch a product and have to sit back and be like, oh, what, and then the logic doesn't line up. And there's always going to be times where it's going to be tough, and maybe you Deus Ex your way out of it, but you don't want it to be too obvious and too abrupt. Otherwise, people are just going to be like, meh, you lose them.
Like 1,000%. And again, if you're thinking about like cinematic universes and whatever, so Raw Underground is happening in the same auspices as the regular Monday Night Raw, as it is Retribution. What are we doing? What are we doing?
I don't know. Well, I mean, to the WWE's credit, by having so much under one umbrella, it's a lot to manage. It is. There are so many athletes, so many storylines, so many, just the logistics of it all. It's just insane. So they've really taken on an enormous responsibility, enormous product to try and rein in. But when you've got piles and piles of writers there, and they're not necessarily working together, they're all just writing all kinds of stuff, and then people are picking one over the other, and stuff's not lining up. Plus, I'd say, like, well, wrestling really doesn't need writers all that much, honestly, and especially they don't need writers that have never been in a fight. There's really no point for them to be out there polluting wrestling. But I don't know. It's a weird setup, and it's hard to make it all follow through. I'm not someone looking for them to fail either, even though people are like, oh, it's a ripoff of your show. It's like, well, okay, yeah, but it's only helping us. It's not really hurting us. And ultimately, all I really want to do, even if it was in regards to Raw Underground, is just put together a better product and make it so that my athletes and the people that are there can shine better and look better. Better wrestling, better product, makes everybody happy, So I'm firmly in the camp of I'd rather do things towards building stuff up than tearing things down.
No, 100%. And I mean, in terms of building up like the next generation of, not just catch wrestlers and professional fighters, but I mean, you've developed under your own tutelage, UWF USA, or did I get that? Or is it UWFI USA?
No, it's UWF USA. Once we had decided that we were going to go and create our own separate thing, it was just like, well, the UWF is kind of one of the most pivotal and backbone things about what I do. It is the blending of the shoot and the work, and everything that came to my doorstep and helped inform who I am kind of is derived from the UWF, and it's also the type of wrestling that I love the best. So why not? Why not start a UWF USA branch and show the world what shoot wrestling, catch wrestling stuff is like out there in the MMA sphere? And our athletes have been quite successful, and our wrestling, the pro wrestling training of people like Nicole Savoy and Tim Thatcher, Marina, Jessamine, Shayna. I've trained J.R. Kratos and Jeff Cobb, and worked with Walter and Alexander Wolf and Harry Smith, of course. Oh boy, yeah, big time. I've been working with Harry Smith for a lot of years, and Eric Hammer. We got lots of great examples of working and shooting all working right together. I know that Alex Coughlin in New Japan has had a pretty good run as a young lion and really shown himself. Alex Kaufman spent like 2 months underneath me.
So where did that occur? Was that at,
Shibata? Shibata sent him over because Shibata needed to take off to Japan to do whatever, and so he goes, "Hey, go train with Josh." So yeah, of course, yeah, send him by. Mm-hmm.
That's not bad at all. Yeah, and he's tearing it up. And I mean, I think it's Friday nights with the New Japan show on New Japan World. I'm like, a bunch of my friends work on that show, and it's just awesome just to see, that happen. And Dave Marquez kind of become into more prominence than he already has. So it's just awesome. It's cool to see your friends do well.
Is Dave Marquez producing a show for New Japan in LA now? Is that what's going on? Yeah, see, I'm out of the loop.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I kind of want to keep it kayfabe, but if you've been to a Championship Wrestling from Hollywood show, you'll know where the familiarity comes with the new New Japan US show. So there's that.
Okay.
If you know where that is,
well, I mean, I know Dave. I've spoken to him before, and Dave was doing production for Lights Out for JJ. And I've talked to Dave actually before about doing some pro wrestling stuff.
I definitely, I'm almost salivating at like what could happen even still. So, I mean, I'm giddy. There's a glow.
Yeah, there's possibility. And trust me, like I said, you don't become never busier by sitting around and just sticking to what you're already doing. And I've got a lot of different ideas in the works. I'm moving all kinds of different puzzle pieces and seeing how I can put it together. So don't be surprised at any potential LA shows.
Oh, I can't wait. And literally, our friends over at the Rock and Roll Beer Dude podcast, shout out to them. Love you, bro. Yeah, rock on. Cheers, rock on. Josh Barnett, fucking legend. Hell yes. Yeah, dude, it's cool. And thank you guys all for joining us here at According to Woods. But I mean, amongst the many things that you're doing right now, two of my most favorite things, and I got to sip one and I missed out and I have a bottle of the other, but your involvement with the Warmaster edition Warbringer whiskey. Please tell us about that.
I got linked up with these guys, and in and amongst, while I was looking for other potential distilleries to get into the whiskey business, because I've always wanted to be involved in having my own whiskey on market. I'm a big whiskey connoisseur, and this wasn't a money grab. This was a legacy thing. And so I just basically said, I need to go up there and try the stuff. I need to see who you guys are, what you're about, and I need to see if the product lines up with what I'm interested in. And it was great right off the bat. We got along really well, and I just remember thinking, okay, yeah, these guys and I are on the same page. And we came up with the Warmaster edition, single barrel cask strength, mesquite smoked bourbon, and we won a gold medal in our first competition, San Francisco International Spirits Competition, and it's completely sold out now. We've gone through 3 different barrels, and we've got 3 future barrels already sold, and it's awesome. Yeah, and we weren't. Well, I have to say, I mean, we were a bit unprepared because with COVID and the pandemic and whatnot, and a lot of things are up in the air, so we weren't really in a whole lot of production. Well, now we are full bore trying to put as many barrels together as possible, because this stuff takes time, and you don't want to end up in the space where you're completely out of juice here, because you can't rush it. So while things are settling and we're waiting for the next batches to be ready, and with the Warmaster edition, unlike the Warbringer being a blend, so we can take from various barrels and create the profile that people are used to with Warbringer. But with Warmaster edition, only special casks that I come about that I pick can be Warmaster edition. So every 1-in-3, 1-in-5, you don't know. You just have to let them do their thing and then taste them and see how they go. And sometimes you might taste one and go, maybe a little longer, and taste one. Sometimes you go, that's perfect.
It's perfection, and perfection takes work, and Richard Mejia of the Doing the Orton podcast goes, I'm on pre-order for the 5th barrel. So there that is,
badass. Yeah. I mean, things were getting to the point where we had to shut it off because we didn't want to get so far behind with people paying into something. We want to make sure that we didn't leave people out there hanging. But there will be more. It's just a matter of time, and we are creating as much production as we can. So the likelihood of us completely selling out of every available stock again of Warmaster, I'm going to say is 80% unlikely, but you never know. You never know.
Never know.
You never know.
Hey, never say never. I mean, especially as a professional wrestler, as a catch wrestler, never say never,
Well, that's true. And people did not expect, well, nobody expected that that it was all going to sell out as quickly as it did. I mean, of course, if I do Joe Rogan's podcast, that doesn't hurt. But, I believe the stuff speaks for itself.
Yeah. Well, every time you jump on Rogan, I learned, like, yours and Neil deGrasse Tyson's, along with Steve Schiff's, those are the ones that I learned the most from. I mean, people with high school education, but, I'm just saying.
I like being in that group.
Yeah, and literally there. Rage over at Black House says hi. So hi, Rage. And there's an interesting question, and I love it. Would love to have Josh fight Josh Barnett.
Brock Lesnar, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm down, man. Who knows how much longer he's going to be in the biz? But before he decides to make his exit, I'd like to take a swing at him in one ring or the other.
Woo! Oh, I'm giddy. Super giddy. This because somebody needs to knock old Brock off of his perch. I think that man is the Warmaster.
Well, I mean, they were doing something with him and Kane, and then nothing. I mean, I'll at least say this much. I think Kane is super green, and he needs a lot of work, but not to knock him. This stuff isn't easy, and it takes time, especially to learn how to be a wrestler and not just someone that does choreography and spots. So, okay, yeah, give him some time to flourish. But I think there were ways that could have been done without, like, erasing the guy from history. So, I'd be curious to know what is Kane's situation with the WWE is right now, because, if he's not doing anything, Bloodsport, it's a pretty nice place to be. We do take care of our guys and gals, and I think he might fit in pretty well.
Oh, can't wait. I mean, Cain Velasquez versus Josh Barnett, 2 former UFC champions, heavyweight champions at that, in a Bloodsport case. I mean, geez. I mean, I'm in. I'm in for the Warbringer. I'm totally in for Cain versus Josh. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And Anthony Aguilera says, goat, total goat. I agree. He's there. It's like you and Dan Severn in iterations in my head.
Yeah, I had to. I brought up Dan Severn the other day. I was doing a piece for ESPN, and they were asking me. God, this is so weird to get this. There we go. It was so. They were asking me about whether Stipe versus Cormier 3 was the fight for the greatest of all time heavyweight fighter, and I thought, no, not at all. And it's not because they're bad fighters. I mean, not being the GOAT or whatever doesn't mean that you're a bad fighter. I just I had my stats. I used the data. I talked about that none of them ever even fought in a one-night tournament. That they've never fought over 5-minute rounds. And yet, you know, people that they're going up against, and I don't even mean just me, but like Nogueira, Fedor, Alistair, Krokop. I mean, there's a lot of other legendary heavyweights out there that all have proven themselves in a variety of different environments, with more fights generally too. So I said, well, you know, I broke it down from an analytical perspective, but I also said, you know, hey man, you got people like Dan Severn. Dan Severn's got over 100 wins, and he won the Ultimate Fighting Championship Tournament 5. He won the Ultimate. He won the first, or he also won a super fight title as well. He was the first lineal heavyweight champion UFC fighter, to which it was passed on to Mark Coleman when he lost it. I mean, so I go, you know, okay, you want to say that you think that Prime Cormier could beat Prime Severn? Okay, maybe, but look what this guy accomplished. Like it, and then even still, give it time. You know, it like whiskey needs some time to mature, and so over time, then we can take a look at Cormier's fantastic career and accomplishments, and then properly weigh them with a little bit of distance. And Stipe's still fighting, so no, he's not the GOAT, and he's got some non-GOAT performances, but hey man, he's got time to do his thing, and maybe his greatest is still yet to come. And at the end of the day, like, who gives a shit? He's an ass kicker. He's doing great. You know, it's fine for us and the fans to sit back and do our analysis stuff. At the end of the day, man, they're doing their job.
Absolutely. I actually don't like to entertain those GOAT, you know, scenarios, because it's totally subjective, you know, and some people have their just bias on, you know, what era of, you know, fighter that they grew up in or level of athlete. So it's totally subjective, you know, and then you could have your compiled list and all of the data, and then here comes some young gun knocking out people left, right, and center, and then it all goes all to hell.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's something that has to be done over time, I think. And even some of the opponents of Stipe and Cormier are not retired. So let's see how the rest of their career looks too. You know, that makes a difference in terms of how you weigh all this.
Absolutely. Now, Jesse brings up a great question, and I was going to ask it, but here you are. What's more difficult to get more ready for, pro wrestling or MMA, in your opinion?
Oh, MMA, because you got to be in the gym all the time, killing yourself, sparring, getting banged up. And it's not as if training for pro wrestling doesn't involve that as well, but I don't have to push it nearly as hard in the gym to prep for pro wrestling stuff. But we at the UWF USA are unique in that 90%, 80% of our pro wrestling training is just MMA training. I mean, like, look, if I can do this, then I can do the other stuff. I mean, it's just moves. So, you know, it's really only polishing when it comes to pro wrestling. And the rest of it is just learning how to wrestle for real.
No, for sure. Now, Anthony Aguilera asks, who's your favorite jiu-jitsu competitor of all time?
Favorite jiu-jitsu competitor of all time? Now, if somebody says jiu-jitsu, I'm thinking gi. I don't really consider no gi to be Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I can say it might be BJJ derived by rule set, and you might have BJJ trained competitors. But to me, and especially if I've had some of my students that I've belted, only the two, you know, my priority was, look, if I'm giving you a BJJ belt, then if this is with the gi on. Without the gi, there's no point in me giving you a belt. I don't see them as separable. So for the question of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitor, I'm thinking specifically gi. And I would say I always loved watching Janji Ribeiro, because he was such a go for the kill kind of guy. And he could win or die by the sword, which was fantastic, you know, real gutsy. Hodger, his slow, methodical, like white belt introduction techniques done at absolute master level efficiency, showing that the basics are done to that level can be absolutely devastating. That the touch and feel that he had to be able to just simply mount and armbar all these people is awesome. And with the gi on, you know, I like watching like guys like Homala Bahal and any of the dudes that what is it? Who's that other dude? There's a few guys. Well, there was Comprido. He liked going after leg locks. A lot of examples of him track and toe holds on people. And then there's also the Braulio. I mean, some of these guys. I mean, amazing games. And I'm not like a fan of like the meows. I don't really dig their style, but they are just full of talent. Cobrinha is just, that guy's a god as far as jiu-jitsu is concerned.
Now I'm gonna reverse it on you. Who's your favorite catch wrestler of all time?
My favorite catch wrestler of all time. Yeah, I've got a real soft spot for Minoru Suzuki myself. Watching him clock head scissor the shit out of people in Pancrase, but I don't know. I mean, Billy Robinson and Carl Koch, or go watch old video of Danny Hodge. That's always impressive to watch too. And the guy can crush pliers together and until they break and smash apples in his hands. I mean, that's just nuts.
100%. Now, obviously, dude, I thank you for your time, but shout out everything you got. I mean, we've got a Warmaster burger at Grill 'em All. You've got the whiskey.
You know, which is due in part to Eddie and Rock and Roll Beer Guy podcast. Linked me and Grill 'em All up. You know what? At the end of the day, I think Eddie just is like, I want to eat new stuff that's cool. So I'm just gonna bring Josh around and get people to make food and beverages for me, which I'm fine to do. You know, I mean, shit, I love keeping people satiated. So I've got joshbarnett.com up and running, brand new website, well, a few months old, and it's got everything about what I'm doing at the moment. It's also got some placeholding for old interviews and specials I've done and things. It's got access to my new merch through Kings Road, which is all pretty badass. If you're a fan of the band Revenge, it's very much along this like stark, brutal aesthetic, with a few old holdovers from my old indie merch store. Then we've got Warbringer and Warbringer Warmaster Edition whiskey out of Sespa Creek, and we're producing. We're putting Warbringer on the shelves right now. It's available. You can go to warbringerbourbon.com to go get your own bottle, or go to places like Remedy, K&L Wines. There's a few more I can't recall now. If you want to, by the way, if you want to actually taste the Warmaster, if you want to be able to buy a glass of Warmaster whiskey, there's a few places you can do it right now. And one is Petit Trois in Hollywood, run by the amazing chef Ludo. I think Petit Trois in the Valley also will have it. Then there is Bourbon Street and Bowery in Fullerton. And they have an outdoor patio dining setup, so you can order Warmaster bourbon there as well if you'd like. But otherwise, it's really hard to track down any bottles. I think I saw someone say something about buying a bottle of it off the shelf somewhere on an Instagram post, and someone chimed in and goes, "Oh, hey, where'd you grab it?" And he's like, I ain't telling you. There's like one place I know I can find it, and I ain't letting it go. I'm telling other people where it's at. All right. I think all of it's all sold out of Fountain Liquor as well on Fountain Avenue. I think they all sold out as well. But they do have Warbringer, and the Warbringer is the blended version basically of what the Warmaster edition is. It's 98 proof. It's all the same stock essentially, but it's a blend, and it's not at cast strength, and it is not that single barrel pick. But you know, don't get it twisted. And that thing has won a crap ton of medals, and for all the competitions it's been in. So it is legitimate, awesome stuff. Stay up to date with GCW and Bloodsport, but I will be announcing if there is Bloodsport information. I'll be announcing it not only on my social media avenue like Twitter and Instagram at Josh L. Barnett, and it'll be up on my Facebook fan page as well. But there's some things coming in the works sooner than later. So we'll have some big announcements here shortly. Then I guess, you know, other than that, just stick by me at the old joshbarnett.com. Follow me on my social media stuff, and you know, we'll walk down this path of anime, Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering, muscle cars, whiskey, shooting sports, and catch wrestling, and every ridiculous weird thing that we can think of.
Fuck yeah, I'm in. I'm totally in. And admittedly, I fucked up because I went on the website for the whiskey and did the location search, and it took me to a place in Hollywood, and it was the regular non-Warmaster edition, and I was like, fuck. But let me get it anyway. So that's there. So
I highly recommend shopping from K&L. They've got great prices. They've got amazing service. But we are glad to be, and Remedy if you live up in the valley, I guess that would be Glendale, I think was Remedy is at. Amazing prices, great selection.
I might be in the same town as the Lewis house, the Ed Strangler Lewis house. That might also be in the same town as that place. So yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options up there for places you can get it. There's a lot of wonderful liquor stores carrying our stuff. But if you think you can find Warmaster edition, well, then, you know, that's like some secret squirrel level shit. And I know that last time I was in Remedy, I did not see any bottles, and I know that we don't have any to sell them. So that's not going to be the case. But I do know that they carry our Warbringer 98 proof bourbon. And I think there's another place, not Happy Time, not Dale's. Trying to zoom in here on the map if I can find ones that I know about. Did you know there's one called K1 Liquor Mart? But I don't think Andy Hoog or Peter, well, definitely not Andy Hoog, but I don't think Peter Ertz or Ernesto Hoos is going to show up and start serving you. But maybe you should go in dressed up as Peter Ertz and be like, I'm here to locate. Yeah, well.
Fuck yeah, man. But dude, thank you. I mean, thank you for doing this. This is fucking awesome, man.
Well, good, man. I'm glad you guys are having a good time with it. Yeah, I can't find the other store just by searching on Google right now.
You can find it. We'll be here.
Yeah, we do have the website tries to do a good job of keeping people up to date on where they can go and find it. But yeah, I will do what I can also to push that out there on social media, so people don't have to look too far.
Hell yes. Well, again, go follow the Warmaster. I don't know why you're not. I'm just saying. But if you should choose, I'm According to Woods, and I have a podcast here. So consider sharing, and subscribing it. I like it. That'd be cool. Making my day. Hashtag Mario Yamasaki's. But for the Warmaster, Josh Barnett, this is According to Woods, and we are out. Bye.